Howdy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, good.
All right, shall we start? Or give Tiger some time to join. Let's start. Okay. So the first question is from Tiago. And
Hey.
okay, hi. Well, unfortunately, we don't have a maintainer present right now. If Tiger joins, he can speak about it, but I can tell you about being a reviewer and training maintainer. And
Yeah, I'm interested in that as well because there's steps to becoming a maintainer. So definitely interested.
Well, like usually the answer is it depends.
It's the best answer, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the most honest one. So initially we had just one maintainer, like half a year ago maybe, and it was he was of course super overloaded, and that's where we a bunch of people joined as trainees, and there was quite few of them, so the load was okay, but over time not many, some of them become a maintainer. So now we have 5 maintainers, and I think 4 or 6 trainee maintainers, which the difference between reviewer and trainee is that the trainee has like 3 times more likely the chance to get a review assigned. And especially when there were just 4 of the trainee maintainers, it was quite busy at some days. And the other thing it depends on is like what type of merge requests you get assigned, because some of them are like pretty easy and quick to review, and some can take like literally like a week or something to figure it out. So it depends a lot, but the more people we have as reviewers or trainers or maintainers, the easier it will be. And I don't know, like I can't say for sure, but I think it could be a little bit easier for maintainers right now because there are more of them, and they get merge requests that are like already reviewed at once. So at least some of the problems were caught already. But yeah, that should be up to maintainers to answer. But if you're asking and wondering about joining, just join.
Yeah, I'm asking someone in the team. My team expressed an interest, and yeah, your answer helps. but it'll be a long journey before they become a maintainer. There'll be reviews and maintainers before that. I'm just wondering how much of a hit I should be expecting on them daily or weekly, but we'll take it as it comes.
But eventually it's up to you, because you can always use the red circle icon as a status emoji, and this way Danger will not assign you any reviews.
Ah, cool! I didn't know that.
At the moment, it works for all type of reviews, like backend, frontend, database. So there was discussion a few weeks ago about we may introduce another icon that will mean just don't, like if you want to keep doing backend reviews, but you don't have the time for more database review. But at the moment, it's just one for all. So eventually, that's what I'm using a lot when I'm like overloaded. I just set the red icon, and that gives you some time to like clear your backlog. Is it reviews or just teamwork? So one can always give it a try.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Thank you.
So I have one. My next point is mine, and this is something that popped up during the PostgreSQL training we're doing this week. And I was looking at that extension before and was, I don't know, somehow was left with the impression that's used only when developing other indexes, and it's kind of not for production use. So it's an extension called B3 gist, which lets you create an index on an integer column and text column using the gist text operators, which is something I've seen a lot in reviews when people want to, let's say, have an autocomplete for branch name or environment name or something else that's usually scoped to a project, and you try to do the index on project ID, whatever the text field is, but you can't at the moment because it has to be either B3 or gist, and gist doesn't support index column. So I'm curious if Nick White knows something more about it. Like, is it okay? And just to finish, the other thing is that for some reason, I guess someone was testing, we already had that extension in production, but it's not in structured SQL, so we can't like assume that everyone else will have it. So we have it, but we don't use it. So I was thinking, should we just like officialize it and start using it?
Right. Extension is there because it's part of core distribution of Postgres, right? So it's in contrib. It's a very old standard contrib module, and as for like, I will answer from the like to last question. You are thinking about combining it with existing gist indexes. I believe those are for 3-gram indexes, right? So it's 2 index 3 grams. I like a couple of months ago, I said, Andreas, that we see that sometimes we want to have a like 3-gram lookup, and plus we have some timestamp, some scalar data like integer or timestamp, and we want to combine it. I thought it should be possible because gist should like. Gist is like, it's like an extension of the idea of B3. I can explain a little bit in more details, but it's like an extension to any type of data. And but like, long story short, it turned out not to be possible to combine 3 grams, unfortunately. And 3 grams are very different types, type of data. It's not a single dimensional data or 2-dimensional data like you would expect using R3 or something. It's sets of something. And actually those trees, like gist is generalized idea. First people had only B3 and R3. R3 is for multi-dimensional data, like on surface or in n dimensions. And then a guy from Berkeley University, he's still there leading database department. His name is Hellerstein. he said we can create abstract structure, not thinking about what kind of data it is. And B-tree will work the same way, and R-tree will work the same way, and other stuff. And people from Russia implemented it in Postgres. Like it was implemented, but WAL was not supported. They added WAL support, so ACID properties, and this became gist. And they realized that existing R-tree implementation in Postgres is much worse than gist kind of R-tree implementation. But for B-tree, it was not so. Performance for existing B-tree, native B-tree, was still better than gist way of implementing B-tree. So they created this additional. You can see the Ted Orsigayev, Oleg Bartonov. I opened documentation. So they created this gist B-tree as a separate extension, because there are some differences in functionality compared to regular B-tree. But performance will be worse a little bit, right? So it's not that, like, if you want good performance, use standard B-tree. As for trigrams, you cannot combine. It's different kind of data. It's like sets. Actually, gist option for sets is called Russian doll tree, RD3. It's a different story. So why this extension can be useful? It can be useful for exclusion constraints. If you want, it lacks, I think it lacks uniqueness. You cannot create unique index using B-tree gist type, but you can say, I need mutually exclusive, like I need to ensure that some ranges are exclusive or something like this. So exclusion constraints. And this is actually the only case I'm aware of. In other cases, B-tree gist loses to standard B-tree, unfortunately. So this is what it is.
Sorry, because I was thinking, let's say you have an autocomplete for environment name, and pretty much every project has a production environment or prod. And currently we should have trigram index on like the name of the environment, but like it's like there are many of these in the table, and if you can do an index on project ID and the name, wouldn't be that much faster, because you don't, because what I assume happens now is it gets all the production environments and then filters by project ID. It
depends. Maybe there is a bitmap index scan there, so it uses in the combination of two indexes and then using bitmaps. Yeah. So I'm like when like internal full text search in Postgres is also based on gist. It can be based on gin and it's faster, but it can be based on gist. And there I used trick to put, for example, project ID as it would be a word. But here we have trigrams. It shrinks all phrases to chunks or 3 letters. I don't know how we can put project ID there. I already thought about it and didn't find a good solution for it, unfortunately. So we need to rely on statistics, and I assume we need to consider corner cases, like when we have a lot of records for a particular project, and see how we can improve it, like in particular some query for some particular case, unfortunately. So no long hanging fruits here.
Okay, and one last thing, you said that the extension is there because it's part of the like default contrib package. But,
right.
But on production, still someone had to create extension B-tree gist, right, because it's enabled. Why it's not enabled, let's say, on my local database, even if it's in the contrib?
Right. Postgres ships with some extensions. They are not installed in any databases yet. You need to say, for example, pgtrgm, trigrams. Someone did create extension pgtrgm and enabled it in particular database. We have library on server installed, but we need say we are going to use it with create extension. By default, they are not like enabled. There are some other extensions which are very external to Postgres, like third-party extensions.
Yeah, which you need to explicitly install.
Yes, to deliver library first.
Like Postgres, I think so. Yeah.
Right. Yes, it's external library.
So
there are a lot of such things.
Short answer to my question is none.
Right. So for no low-hanging fruits here, unfortunately.
Okay, cool. Well, we don't have anything else. So, Nick, if you want to talk about what Adam was asking 2 weeks ago about deduping large tables, you said you have some thoughts on this one.
Well, I will describe the problem shortly. The current implementation of background migrations is quite weak. When we approach like billion records in a table, for example, it shows its inefficiency, because first phase of background migrations is to split, define batches, right? And this is very inefficient already. I had, like, for billion records, I remember I had like 20 minutes, 30 minutes just to finish this planning phase. It's very inefficient.
Is this the case even if you manage to have index only scan, like you just all the columns that you need are in the index? Is it still gonna be slow for that large tables?
Well, if you have millions of records and you need just to deal with 600 records, it's not a good idea to plan visiting batches, like ordering by ID and planning them. And this planning phase will be slow, because yes, it's okay, it's on index only scan, but I believe what I think 1 year passed. What I saw, it's not only index only scan, but some, like, it degrades more and more we go further, because the key thing here is that we are trying to organize it into same size batches, which I think is a false target, actually, because it's not a big deal if batches are like vary, not a problem, actually, but we're trying to have like 10,000 items per batch, and that's why it's not possible to use index only scan, because you need to have offset, and offset degrades while you go further and further, and like it's definitely slow. And then if you want just to process 600 rows, it's better to find proper index from existing ones, or to invent some index, and then use select for update. You know this thing, like, right, non-blocking. Like, honestly, I think like we are also throwing this batches to Sidekick, and then to run a lot of parallel jobs. But my experience shows that we have more headache from parallelization here, and we can process in one thread very fast if we do proper query, actually, and have much less. I already implemented many times large table processing with select for update, with parallelization support, like 10 processes in parallel, and then disabled it and deployed in single thread. And it was fast, like billion records per day. It's really fast. So like consuming one CPU. We also need to take care about how much wall we produce during the period, of course, like more DB related stuff. So I'm trying to build an understanding that we need to somehow to rethink current implementation of background migrations, actually, because I have some draft. I had some draft for some time ago, based on the idea that there is some index and we just use select for update. And
why do we need select for update, and how is it not blocking? Is it blocking?
Current implementation, we take like 10 million, 100 million rows, and we have planning phase. We order by ID, and take first 10,000, then next 10,000 with offset, right? And then we remember boundaries, put it to Sidekick, and then we can parallelize the work because we know that batches do not intersect, right? Because IDs are defined. And this is very slow to plan and very inefficient if we just need to reach our 600 rows, that's it. Like Adam discussed last week. Just 600 rows. We could just create a temporary index which would allow us quickly locate our target rows, and then select for update using index only scan. Next, say 100 or 1,000 rows, select for update would lock them while we are issuing update. Like with CTE, with select for update, then update released, and they since our index would be maybe like partial, locating only 100 or 600 rows. Once we update them, they are already not under our field of view, right? They are outside of scope of index. And select for update allows us to run multiple batches because skip locked, right? I forgot about more important part. So skip locked means if other process already processing some of our target rows, skip them very quickly. And this approach is much more efficient if we need to. It's both efficient for full table processing and partial processing, as Adam had.
By the way, we do create indexes, temporary indexes to support background migrations quite often already for big tables. And that's basically like we try to get an index that has everything we need, so that when the scheduling is done, it's you can take just the rows that you're interested in, it's index only scan, and then pass it to Sidekick. And I don't think we do passing to Sidekick that much to parallelize it, because inside each job it's usually sequential processing and not parallelized. And I think we have one consumer running at a time, and that's actually why we want the batches, so that we can run a batch, then put a delay of like the minimum is 2 minutes, give some time of database to recover, and then process another batch. So usually there is no parallel processing. Sometimes some migrations can like split that batch in further batches and process them, but I think it's still sequential. So we don't like select for a date, skip lot will help, but at least I haven't seen like many cases where we need it. So, and the other thing about is you said about trying to get equal size batches. I think we do this mostly so that we can predict how long it will take and like estimate the migration duration, and give and like do a batch, wait for like 2 minutes or more, then do another batch, so that we don't create too much load to the database.
Right, but okay, I agree. But the question was, why it was triggered in my head. The question was how we can skip full table processing. This is how we just need to get rid of planning phase, these batches approach. We can do just select for update, skip locked based on our index process.
And you do this until there is nothing selected, which means you process them.
Right.
Okay,
if zero, we can use returning ID and have count or something. Like if we see that nothing was returned, okay, we are done. Right, we can drop index, analyze. I can find my draft and put it to document. Maybe will someone look at it? Maybe you.
I may have seen it, but I don't.
Right.
But that's interesting, and I'll keep it in mind while I'm doing migrations next. And sometimes it's really annoying when you know you have like just a few rows that you want to process, but you have to like iterate through the whole large table just to find them and do that.
right, to predict when we like where we are in terms of processing, we can have two approaches. First, we can just have explain select where it will be based on our index, and it will show us how many rows index has still, like like not estimated, right? Because it's based on statistics. And we can also add like vacuum analyze to, or just analyze to recalculate statistics. And then another approach is we still can order by ID, especially if our index is friendly with this approach. And then we just know maximum ID in our table, and starting from 0. And again, we can have like how many percentage is left. I also usually have like progress bar in such. I also wanted to understand like 50%, 60%. Sometimes I just even embed it to the same query. It's multi-stage CT, select from that, skip logged, update, then estimate where we are, then count. If it's 0, stop. Usually like this. So yeah, I'm going to attach, to put to the document that draft. So if you see we can benefit, we can return to the draft.
And the other thing that was mentioned during the training this week is that, because like I said, we do batch in a background migration, and then we wait for some time to give the database some space to like reduce load, but there is nothing that guarantees that vacuum kicked in those 2 minutes and finished. And the guy who's doing the training suggested that in such cases it's good to explicitly do vacuum on the table once you're done. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a reasonable idea, and I remember Yorick implemented this in the current background migrations implementation. Actually, it should be there already.
Is it? So we're kicking vacuum in the background migration worker when it's done. Oh, I didn't know that.
It should be in migration helpers. This is what I remember. It was long ago.
Okay, yeah, I'll check the code. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm.
Right, I found the issue. I will put it to the document. So, right. Actually, my opinion that we will see the problem with the current implementation more and more with the growth. So 1 billion rows will be already very noticeable. It's hard to process for whole table, for example. And actually, we already have some tables where integer 4 primary key reached 40%. So we will need to return to this topic again. I remember last time we escaped from the problem just dropping some column, like
I remember.
Right, but right now it's approaching again, and we are waiting for migration to Postgres 11 to be able to have non-blocking not null default. We actually need not null, but we will use some trick to install not null without blocking whole table for long. Oh, hi.
Yeah, and the other problem we usually have with that scheduling phase is that when people write the migration, they try the query, check the execution plan on database lab, but that's usually for the first batch or the first few batches. And when it's run in production, it turns out that sometimes it may time out for reasons, because one is like Andreas explained, the density of the columns that we're looking at. Or just like you said, with bigger offsets, it starts degrading. So there is no way for us to know how it's going to work until we actually execute it, which reminds me for your other suggestion about having a way to do test run of migration against production size database as part of CI, which will be very helpful. So, anything else? Tiger, do you want to share your experience as maintainer on the first question?
Sure. As maintainer, it's a lot better than reviewer, to be honest.
That's what I was. That's what I was assuming.
When I was a reviewer, right near the end, it got pretty bad, and it was at least half a day sometimes. As a maintainer, maybe 2 hours a day, and sometimes you'll get one, and sometimes you'll get quite a few, or 4 or 5. So it depends, but probably on average, a quarter of the day.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Are there any like waves of load when some release approaches? Like before, I know that like release was changed to like continuously delivering features and so on. Before, I remember like every month it was a huge wave of requests, and it was like tough. Is it so still or no?
There is still some of it, but not as used to be, because we deploy to .com at least once a week. But still the self-managed releases are cut once a month. And sometimes people want to get their work into the release because it's like it was asked for on self-managed customers or something. So probably it's kind of the same, but not that bad. Okay, so do we have anything else, or we should stop now in the half of hour?
Kras, you had a point about using B-tree gist?
Well, yeah, we covered this, and
right.
Nick said that it's not gonna help actually. Right. So you can watch the recording.
Yeah, short answer: it is slower than regular B-tree.
Right.
So.
But what maybe I didn't get it right. What if you have? So currently we have just the gist index on the text column, and do you think it's still gonna be better than combined B-tree gist on the integer and text column? I probably should like.
If you just index text column with regular B-tree or B-tree gist, it doesn't matter. You will consider this text as a scalar value actually. So it's like ordered in single dimension, right? Trigrams do differently. They shrink texts and they create arrays actually, and they index these arrays. There is no like more or less operators there. There is operator like contains and is contained. So like operators for sets. It's a very different story. So you cannot just use B-tree gist to do the same as you do with trigram module.
Okay, I just checked, and actually we don't have gist index. We have, let's say, on environment staple, we have B-tree on name varchar pattern ops or trigram pattern ops.
It's another story.
And this is. Yeah, it's my question was, can we, like, is there a way to add the project ID to that index, because it's usually always scoped to a project? But I think what happens if you try to combine integer with text and varchar pattern ops, it's complaining that there is no such operator or something.
I believe that varchar pattern ops, it's op class. It's how like we can compare two values in different ways. For example, can sensitive included or excluded, so like various ways. And varchar text pattern ops or varchar pattern ops is a way to apply like regular like ASCII style comparison. It's usually helpful when you want to have like blah blah percent sign lookups, so like prefix search, because in this case
those
this
are
is
the one we do for autocomplete.
right. This is not it's a different method compared to trigrams. It's in this case you are like on like in single dimension, and you are comparing using less or more or equal operators. So in this case, I believe, as I remember, these modifiers are applied not to whole index, but to every column inside index. So you can have multi-column index and specify this thing to each column. I believe I better should check. So I suspect we can do this. I mean, we can have text with text pattern ops plus some number integer.
I just checked, and I think varchar pattern ops is kind of like legacy thing, because we have just 4 of these, and we have 27 of gin trigram ops on a gin index, and that's the one we recommend in the docs, and that's why people usually this one. And it's probably when you try to add project ID to gin index with gin trigram ops, that's where it's complaining.
Yeah, it will not work, right? It will not work. But yeah, I understand why it's legacy, because it will work only for prefix search. You can have this percent like blah blah percent, but you cannot have like percent blah blah. While trigrams, they are more powerful, although slower actually. So, but they are more powerful because you start typing and you find the beginning of word which is not in the first one in the phrase, right?
Yeah.
It's more powerful search. So right. Still no good solution, right? To have a single index scan and cover both trigrams and some integer. The same story with full text search, unfortunately, in Postgres. You cannot, for example, have full text search and order by, for example, ID or timestamp. There is special index. It's called RAM. It's external module, but I don't like it at all because size of index is so huge. I tried several times, cannot adapt it anywhere. It's a very huge thing. It's like extended gin when you insert some integer there. Same story with gist, unfortunately. So no good solutions. I know guys who could improve it, but it would be costly and not fast.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I don't think it's actually that big problem, at least not yet, because it's working. It was just something that I've spotted during reviews, and sometimes other reviewers, like backend reviewers, add, "Oh, we have that index. Why don't we add the project ID?" Yeah, because it's not working.
It happened multiple times, right? We can expect degradation when some projects have a lot of records of some type, and we do trigrams, and project ID is competing what to do first, and then like it will be slower and slower, unfortunately. So if we want to be proactive, this is a kind of problem we need to think about and try to solve somehow else. But I don't see a standard solution right now here, unfortunately.
Well, outsource it to Elasticsearch.
Well, Elasticsearch, you need to synchronize constantly, right? And
that's the problem then.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I guess that's all for today, unless anyone has anything else. So, okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. See you in 2 weeks. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.